Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm going to do a couple videos about single-speed conversions on your bike. And this is for non-mechanics, basically. So if you are just kind of curious about how it's going to go, this will hopefully help you know what the mysteries are. So let's start with a bike, which is probably what you've got in your basement. This is the bike that you want to turn into a single-speed because, for whatever reason, single speeds are a lot of fun. So what you have is, the big difference is that you currently have the derailleur hanging back here. And aside from obviously being able to change the gears, the derailleur's other job is to take up or to make sure there's a lot of tension on your chain so that the chain's not skipping all over the place and not getting any hold on the gears. So when you remove this, you end up with chain tension problems, which is what the trick of single-speed conversions are. So let's look at one example of a conversion. This is when you have your old beat-up mountain bike in the garage or in the basement and you want to turn that into a single-speed. Mountain bikes, you often will be using what is called a chain tensioner. So you remove the derailleur, which used to be on your bike, and you put on one of these guys, which costs about 40 bucks Canadian. And what this does is this provides the tension so that the chain's not loose, it's nice and tight. So that's one thing you've got to do. You also have to obviously, where there used to be several cogs back here, you have to make up that space, and there's spacers you can buy to do that. And up front, obviously, you've removed 3 chain rings and you've put 1 single ring on. Now this, let's go back to here. So this is 1 ring, 1 cog, and a tensioner to take up the tension. Now if you notice on your new bike, you've got the bolts holding the chain rings on. This bolt is holding onto this ring and your middle ring, and there's another set of bolts back behind holding on this ring. Now when you take these out, you would think that you can just put them back and you put on your new single ring. You would think that you can reuse these bolts, but you actually can't because they're too long. They're long enough to hold both rings on, whereas you're only putting on 1 single ring. So you need shorter bolts. So you need to buy a single speed bolt pack of just shorter bolts, and these cost 10 bucks or so Canadian. And you shouldn't reuse your chain. Your chain's worn down and it may be rusted. So you're going to be buying a new chain to put on. And your new chain comes long enough to go through all of this stuff. So it's quite long. And when you only have 1 ring and 1 cog, you only need a shorter chain. So you're going to be needing to kind of measure, put your chain on the ring you've got and the cog you've got, and tighten it up and see how much you need. And there'll probably be some leftover dangling, and you're going to need to remove that with your chain tool. Now let's look at another example of a conversion. This is my nice old Cannondale from, well, early 90s anyway. And it had the down tube shifters. It is quite a nice bike. Now the problem with it is that I crashed it on a bridge one time, and the crash broke off your derailleur hanger here. There should be a piece right here, and that's what either your derailleur or your chain tensioner would have hung off of. So that's a problem because you can't use that chain tensioner to create chain tension. And what's also a problem is, like track bikes have a horizontal dropout, so you can shift the wheel back and forth to see where you would get the maximum tension, and that makes a single-speed conversion quite easy. A vertical dropout, you've only got one choice of where the wheel is going to be fitted, and you can't create tension by moving the wheel back and forth. So this basically means you're in a world of hurt. It's really, really, really tough to get the proper tension when you can't use a tensioner and you have no ability to play with the wheel. So what you end up doing is, hopefully you've got a whole bunch of different cog sizes to use, and a few different rings hopefully to use. because you can play with the different number of the size of the ring up here and the size of the cog back there to create tension. I ended up using what is called a half link. It's right there. So you remove links, you play with the chain ring and the cog sizes, you try to get that nice tight tension, and I could never do it until I took out, I think you remove 2 links and you install the half link. And half link is a little bit shorter and lets you create that tension. But if you're in this situation, get ready to do a lot of swearing because it's a real pain in the ass, and try to get your hands on a link. So let's go downstairs and we'll look at the new project that we're going to be working on. Oh, it's okay. Okay, so you've probably got something like this is what you're working on. Now, this is basically a bad news scenario. This is an old crank and chain ring set, and I can't, all these rings are riveted together onto the crank arm. I can't just remove these and reuse this arm. So if there's no bolts. I can't take these rings off. So if you have something like this, not only do you have to replace rings, you've got to replace your crank arms as well. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So this is some crank arms I picked up off a friend. So I'll be using these, and I'll be putting a new ring on here. So that's one thing to look for. Does your crank set have the removable bolts? Or is it like this? If it's like this, you're paying 40 to 50 bucks for a new crank set. Now, that's bad enough. The other step, the other problem you might be dealing with an old mountain bike, is as I was playing with this and doing this, the bottom bracket is actually grinding and bumping, and it's worn out. So not only am I about to have to get a new or use a new crank set, I've got to remove the bottom bracket, and I think this is my new bottom bracket that's going to be going in there, and this is just a stupid piece. But so you might even have to be buying a new one of these to go on the bike. And I think that's it for the general introduction and the general things to be looking out for in doing this job. Video 2 will be picking up a tool and removing some stuff.